Welcome! My name is Ruth Sanderson, and I create coloring books for adults. This is the first in a series of live demos I'm giving on my Ruth Sanderson Art Facebook page in April and May of 2020, a time, as you well know, when diversions are much needed. I'm recording this intro for the YouTube version. Usually, I record voiceovers for my coloring demos on YouTube, as I find it hard to communicate clearly while doing art at the same time. So my apologies for all the ums you're about to hear. I'll try to do better next time. My first topic is how to color Grayscale fairy wings with Prismacolor colored pencils. Oh, here it is. So I did do a version in my actual coloring book, Fairies, Grayscale coloring. I colored the first picture, which is what I'm going to be showing you today. Obviously, this whole picture took many, many hours, and it isn't even finished. I didn't finish the leaves up here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the colors I use in the background and in the fairy herself, but I'm going to concentrate on the wings and see how long it is. I don't want to spend too much longer than about a half hour for these demos. I don't want to lose people's attention. Attention spans are pretty short on Facebook, I think, so I'm not going to do a whole hour. I don't think, just maybe a half hour. So you can see here, I've done kind of almost like a rainbow colored fairy wing, and these are sort of inspired by not butterfly wings so much as the very iridescent wings that dragonflies have, where when they hit the light, you can really see a lot of iridescence. And there's almost no one right way to simulate this. There are many different color schemes you can use, and I'm going to show you a few of those. So for instance, this one, I used a light green pencil, a blue pencil, and a purple pencil. So that's kind of one color scheme. And then this again is similar to the one that I showed you that was almost finished. And I might do this one when I finally get to the demo. And I had a third one, but that one seems to be missing right now. So, oh, there it is. So this one is just pinks and blues. And also just a note to talk about overall color scheme. Now, when you're doing a fairy picture and you're deciding what colors to put in the wings, what I might suggest is, to make the picture harmonious, is to pick one of the colors that you put in the wings, that you chose for the wings, and make her dress that color. So in my coloring book, I chose to make her dress pink. However, in the original painting of this, her dress was yellow, and there was not a lot of pink in the wings in my original painting. So I like to mix it up too, and Grayscale is fun because it's really almost like a blank canvas where you can tint and create completely different color schemes. And I'm always fascinated by the color schemes that other people come up with for my images. So today, I think I might, I might stick with the pinks. So here we go. All right. Maybe I'll put that one beside me. Okay. All right, so first step. Hi, Denise. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Yvonne. Yes, I don't think I can. I'm going to switch now to coloring and I won't be able to see your names on the screen. So again, hello everyone. This is Ruth Sanderson, and I am, if you're just joining us, I'm about to do a demo of coloring fairy wings. And please leave comments. You know, that helps get my videos seen other places too, I believe. So later on, please comment, make suggestions for other topics. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks. And like the video, I hope. So here goes. All right, now, hopefully you can still hear me. I'm a little below the camera now. So this is a magic device. It's called a jelly roll. It's a gel pen. It's a white gel pen. And there are other different brands that are good too. This is a Sakura brand, and this is a number 10. And this one makes very nice magic dots. So this is great for snow. It's great for sort of magical fairy dust everywhere. And so you can do sort of random dots with this. This pen is also great for if you're doing skies and you want to add stars. And the trick is that I've learned actually from colorists, that for putting some highlights first, then when you go over it after it's dry with a colored pencil, those highlights stay really quite white. So so it's easy to color over them and have areas that you really want to stand out and you don't want to disappear by putting too much color over it. So another thing you can do to make some of the details stand out. So for instance, I could go in and sort of outline even some of the, you know, maybe just a few of the these little cells in the fairy wings, just to make them a little clearer. I did go in earlier just with a white pencil. Is that a white? And white. And in the original print, these were not that prominent. So you can go in either with a gel pen, or if you want a softer look, go in with a white pencil, and you can just you know, sort of outline some of these areas so they don't get too covered by the colors we're going to put over them. These details will still show through. However, if you accent them a little more, they'll come through a little stronger. So there we are. So that's just giving you a little bit of an idea of what to do with a gel pen to enhance your coloring. You could also do something else. I hope I have time today. I think I will to show you how I would color her hair and her skin, and maybe a little bit of the dress and a little bit back there of the waterfall, if I have time. So what I might do, and you know, this is optional. You can certainly go forward and color this without doing this, but I'm just sort of adding a few bright highlights to her hair, so that when I go over her hair, you know, she'll sort of have almost like a nimbus around her head. Anyway, so, all right, so back to fairy wings. Here I'm getting carried away. So colors, let's talk about colors. So this is basically pinks, and I've used a couple pinks for this. I've used a straight pink, and I've also used a blush pink. And I guess I'll just start like that. So what I do, usually I start with the lightest color, because sometimes that's enough and I don't need to add a color that's, you know, a little darker of that family. You know, again, this is really optional, you know, what you do, but this is one way of doing it. So what I've done here is I've just picked, you know, almost at random, a few areas to start that will be pink. And you notice I'm not being like careful. I'm almost being scribbly here. So I want the edges, I don't want this to be like a round circle of pink on her wing. I want it to be a little more organic than that. So there's a pink area. So how about making another pink area in this part of the wing? So I'll make it a little different than that one. So there's another pink area. Now how about, I'm going to change it up a little. I'm going to make a pink area down here. And maybe a final one here. So I'm not using any reference for this. You know, I've looked at pictures of dragonfly wings, and you can do that to get an inspiration for a color scheme you might want to use, or just basically use any light colors. However, the trick is to not put colors next to each other that are fairly close on the spectrum. So in other words, you know, I don't know if you ever memorized red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, you know, so that's the color wheel. So I wouldn't put, for instance, green right next to the pink, because green and pink are opposites on the color wheel. I want to put something near the red that will blend nicely. If I added green right next to that pink, it would sort of turn brown, because, you know, opposites make brown. So pink and green, you don't want to put right next to each other. For instance, yellow and purple are opposites. You don't want to put them right next to each other. The opposite of blue is orange. So if you follow the principles of putting what's called analogous colors, so colors fairly close on the color wheel next to each other, you'll have more success with this. I mean, I suppose I could put green sort of right next to it, but I've just found that it works better to then, all right, did you learn in school that red and yellow make orange? So I'm not actually making orange, but I'm putting the yellow next to the red so that the blend in between, you know, is a smooth blend and not too jarring. So I'm going to use the yellow there. So I'm sort of going around each section of that I've made with the pink with this yellow. And then, so that, and notice again, I'm just scribbling. So this is the equivalent of what I would call glazing with colored pencils. You know, you can still see what's underneath. You know, colored pencils are amazingly transparent. You know, you've got to bear down really hard to cover something and get it to be completely opaque. And you can do that, but I usually wait till the end to do that burnishing. And for this, you don't want to do that, because if I bore down really hard, for instance, with the pink pencil, you know, I could obliterate all this nice detail underneath. So you really want it just to be showing through in a glaze. Okay. All right, so the next pencil that I would choose is actually green. So we're kind of going, we're going spectrum, you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. I'm going to put all of those in. But if you attack it like this in, you know, very orderly and, you know, do it one at a time and work your way out, you know, I think you'll see that the effect is really quite nice. So I'm using light green, and when the previous pencil was lemon yellow, in case you want to know, and this is light green. So I'm going to the edges of where the yellow are and building it out. And so, something I'd like to mention about the pressure that you're using when you use colored pencil, it's a very light pressure, and it's almost like if you were just to lightly sign your name, you know, you're not like, you're not putting a lot of pressure on the pencil. So it's almost like you're just sort of gliding over the area. And, you know, I'm sort of doing a, you know, a scribbly technique, and going over the same area quite a few times. See when I first go over it, not much shows, and then as I work over it, you know, this is called adding layers. So I'm adding 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, but I'm going so fast that it's not like I'm laboriously going. No. I'm being kind of sketchy with it. And the great thing about Grayscale is that you can be sketchy with your application in a lot of places. You know, I'll be much more careful when I work on her skin, for instance, but because the wings have so much detail in them, you know, all that detail and gray and what have you underneath is blending with the colors you put on top, and it's sort of creating, you know, almost like an impression. You're almost doing an impressionistic technique with the pencil for the wings in particular. You know, in other areas, you know, I would be, you know, much more slow and careful. So here we go around. You know, and it's funny because my pictures look, you know, my oil paintings look very super detailed, but I tend to be a little sloppy a lot of times. You know, I guess not so much in oils because I'm working much more closely, but I really have fun with the pencils, and if I you know, go over a little bit of her hair there, you know, I'm not really making her hair green, and you notice, actually this is good because, you know, the gel pen I put on top there, you know, this is a good way if you want to preserve an area and have it be really pretty close to white. You know, anything else you put over it isn't going to change that white much to the color. It's kind of magic. Okay. All right, so blue. Actually, blue is my least favorite color, and for me the most problematic when I'm coloring, and also in painting. You know, I find I go to just a couple blues and I stick to them, and I know how they work. And even in oils, you know, the properties of, or any kind of paint, but especially oils, the properties of blues are so different depending on what blue it is. Some are very transparent, and some are very opaque. And I have just discovered, by trying out some blues recently, you know, I was trying to work out, you know, what colors to use for colored pencil in the background, and I actually discovered a couple of Prismacolor blues that I will never use again. And I'm just going to share that with you as an aside here. So go ahead and try this at home, but not on a good coloring. So first I'll go Blue Lake, and Blue Lake looks very pretty, right? However, I was coloring the darker part up here, sky or whatever it is, with this Blue Lake, and all of a sudden I got really dark streaks in the middle of my coloring. I mean, dark little streaks. So, and then I had a second version of this, and the same thing happened. So Blue Lake is to me, and I don't know if it's how they compose it or what have you, but I am never using it again. And Electric Blue, which looks like a really dark blue, for some reason is a very hard pencil, and it actually is a very light color. And you're not going to believe me, but here, let me show you. This looks very dark, right? Look at that. That does not match what it looks like, and it doesn't go down well. So fair warning, Electric Blue is a bizarre color. For instance, here's non-photo blue, which is actually almost looks identical to that, right? And here, so I'm bearing down. So that's non-photo blue, which is actually one of my favorite blues. And this looks like a darker version of it, however. So a quick Prismacolor interlude here. And that's actually the only two Prismacolor pencils I've ever had trouble with. So they are marked with tape, and I'm not going to throw them out. I'm going to keep them in case I forget. So anyway, interlude over, back to coloring. I just really wanted to share that with you because I thought it was so bizarre. So back to non-photo blue, which actually is my favorite blue, and I wish they wouldn't call it this. That's an old term from when actually they would, designers and what have you would use non-photo blue, and it actually would not photograph. And I'm not sure why. I don't know the technical reasons for that, but to me, it's a really nice light sort of aqua. So I'm going to use this next. And the thing with blues, also, I'm not so happy with Prismacolor and their selection of blues. The next lightest blue, there's a trio of them, and they almost all look identical. It's Sky Blue Light, which is very pale, Powder Blue, and I think Cloud Blue, and they're almost all identical. And then the next lightest blues are non-photo blue, light cerulean. There's a nice one called Caribbean Sea. So these are my three favorite blues. But I just so wish they would make one in between, you know, like light blue. Just give me light blue. And I bet there are other brands that do. So sometimes with the blue, I'll actually go back in with like the Sky Blue Light and lighten the blue that I've put down. But I'll go back to non-photo, I think. And I will use this really lightly because it's not as light, you know, as the pink in terms of the value. So if you squint, you know, this stands out as being a much lighter color. Blue is actually quite a dark color. So, you know, the full tone. And I just wish that there was a light blue that was somewhere in between this and that. But, so I'm switching up and making the blue a little lighter by adding a layer of the Sky Blue Light. bit there, a little bit down here, and actually in this case I'm sort of filling in between the two greens here. So what I've done here is I've left room, and this is going to be, I think I'm going to do the purple here. And in this case, I'll go up to here. So, you know, I really didn't have an exact plan how this was going to turn out, you know, sort of winging it. Ha ha ha. That was a not intentional pun. And what I'm finding is that, I'm sort of like, oh, now I've got all this wing, you know, this is almost finished, and now I've got more wing, but we'll figure something out. So, final color is lilac. And this is a pretty light lilac. And I don't know if any of you have ever noticed that there are very few purples, and especially light purples in the Prismacolor huge catalog of color. And for me, there are way too many dark colors and not enough light colors. And I guess because I color grayscale, you know, the color, you know, the gray is sort of creating the dark, and you don't really need to put a lot of extra darks on grayscale. You can sort of use the values that are there and just, you know, add a bit of color, but usually I'll add a brighter color on top of darker grays instead of adding dark. So I'm finding the purple there. Let's go down. The purple here. And again, this color is, you know, this is the lightest color purple they have, I believe, in the Prismacolor line. So, so I'm going to, I could use a little white maybe to brighten that up a little bit there. And actually, if you want to brighten up the whole thing, it's up to you. You can sort of add white. You know, I'm sort of semi-burnishing this and not pressing down that hard. And I could, you know, maybe add a bit of purple in here. And another thing you can accent is if you find like one of these lines, you know, you could, you know, put a bit of heavier color under that if you want. You know, so you can play with this for, you know, forever practically. Well, not forever, but for quite a while. So I think what I'll do now is just go backward and start again with the blue. Just go back in. I'll go back with a little green. Here's my yellow. Back. Yellow. And I guess I will end with the pink. All right, so again, you don't have to do quite so many colors, the sort of rainbow wings here. You can choose, you know, a color scheme that's just a couple of these colors. You know, here's more blue and pink. Here's more. This one does not have pink at all. It's blue, purple, green, little yellow. So it is, you know, up to you. And then, you know, there's my original version. with very similar to what I just showed you, but different. They come out different every time. The one I just did has more purple in it, you know, and then afterward, you know, you can add in more sparkles. It's a good place to add the sparkles, and I didn't shut my pens, that's why it's doing. A good place to add the sparkles is along the cells here and there. So that's where, you know, a highlight might show up, you know, along the lines of the cells. But you can also just sort of randomly add sparklies. And you might ask, well, why can I do this with the white colored pencil? Not as well, because the white colored pencil on top of all those colors, it is going to be, you know, white. Any colored pencil is a bit transparent. So a gel pen is just going to give you that zap of perfect opaque white. So I would recommend that. All right, so I think I have done with my fairy wings. And I'll just talk a couple minutes about her hair. I'll just do a really quick little demo. I always end up with 20 things in my hand. So you can just use a couple colors for her hair. I almost always start with the lightest color. And this is cream. And sometimes I will go over the middle tones too with the, oh, it's kind of overlap. I'm just going to do the back of her hair. And because she's a fairy, I think she looks really cool with soft hair, and I'm not going to go in and delineate too much the outlines. And the next one I'm using is yellow ochre, although sand is also good if you can find sand. That's sort of the next color up. So again, you notice I'm not being too careful. You know, I would spend you know, more time on this, obviously, but this is why I love coloring grayscale. It's so much fun because you basically are glazing over the gray, and you know, a little bit of the gray is still showing through, but you're putting, you know, a nice rich color on top of it so that you know, it looks good. So there, really quickly, you know, I've colored some of her hair. You know, I went in with more detail on this one. So next, I'll show you just a little bit of coloring flesh. I'm going to take that away. So a little bit of coloring flesh. So the old standbys for flesh are peach and light peach. And let's color her. And this is where I use a very light hand. I'm just going to color this one area of her shoulder. And I'm going to go over the whole thing quite a few times. And if you color over an area very lightly, you don't have to be, you know, super, you know, detailed, careful like that. If you use a really light hand, you can, you know, do 20 layers really fast and really loose and not have to be, you know, super tight with it. And then I would go in with peach and not touch anything that's really the light area. And I go over the shadow areas with the peach. And the same with her face. You know, I'd maybe add a little blush pink to her cheek, make her lips maybe blush pink. I'd go in with more layers in her eyes, socket. And people, you know, if you're doing an oil painting, you know, people have we have a lot of gray in our flesh, so leaving, you know, a little bit of a touch of gray doesn't hurt. So you can get, you know, flesh done pretty quickly. Okay, I know this was all about wings, but I just wanted to talk a tiny bit about other colors you might use. For the water and the leaves, you know, some people might prefer to color the leaves first, and for the leaves I used a pretty dark pencil, might have been Kelly green, and because I wanted the leaves to stand out dark against the lighter blues in the background. But here I just went around the leaves as much as I could, not perfectly, and then I would draw the leaves back in on top. So you can either do the leaves first, then do the water, and then maybe go back in, and actually even possibly with, this is Prussian green, you know, so they really stand out. I think I prefer Prussian green, you know, and then the darks of the branches. My favorite brown is a neutral dark brown sepia, so I would suggest for that to use that. And the blues are similar blues that I used here. I used I think I used cloud blue, and then actually not the non-photo blue. I prefer, I believe I used Caribbean Sea for the darker blues. And I didn't use any white because I want the white of her wing to stand out. So that's probably the last thing I'll say about the wings, that you know, because the wings have all these great white highlights, you don't want probably a lot of white highlights back here in the water to compete with the wing. You want the wing to pop out. So these light areas of the water are actually not white. They are either cloud blue, which is slightly darker than white. So see how now the wing stands out because the blue behind it, and the blue behind it's also, I'm trying to go for really soft look with that. And I believe that I should stop now because the sun has turned the corner of my house and is now making this giant shadow. Hi. Okay, so thanks for coming. I'll be back next Saturday at 2 p.m. with another coloring demo. And here are fairy wings. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.